Welcome back to the Urban Debate. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it has been more than a month since the first union budget of the Modi Sarkar 3.0 was released, but there's seemingly a curious aspect of the budget that now seems to have triggered an online debate. Please refer to the graphic that you now see on your screen. Income tax seemingly contributes more to government revenue than corporations. That's right. The budget, at a glance, establishes that the share of governmental revenue from income tax on individuals at 19% is more than what corporates have contributed, which is actually 17%. This follows from taxes foregone 5 years ago when corporates were actually given a tax break. This observation has led to Congress leader and leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul, to accuse the Prime Minister and his government of tax terrorism and of breaking the back of middle classes to support big corporate friends. Now, this is according to a quote from a PTI report. Aam Aadmi Party MP Raghav Chadha, who, if you remember, had also claimed in Parliament during the debate on the budget that Indians pay taxes like the compatriots in the UK but receive facilities like the compatriots in Somalia, has also weighed in, claiming that only 3% of Indians pay more taxes than the corporate sector combined. So how did we really reach that figure of 3%? Let me try and break it down to you, our viewers here. In 2022, 7.4 crore Indians had filed their IT returns. Now, out of them, 5.16 crore had zero tax liability, which means only 2.24 crore Indians actually paid income tax. In a population of over 140 crores, that means only 1.6% of the total population paid income tax. Now, that might be misleading. So, if you remove out of 140 crore population, if you remove the number of citizens below the age of 18, who obviously are not tax paying, if you also remove the number of people above the age of 60 who have retired, you come down to an actual eligible population of 95 crores or 67 crores. Out of that 97 crores, only 2.4 crore Indians actually paid tax. So that comes down to a figure of 3%. So are we reading too much into these figures? To break it down to me, let me go across to my team guest, Mr. Mohandas Pai, who's joining me at this point. Mr. Pai, thank you for joining us on Mirror Now. There are reports coming in that personal tax collections are more than corporate tax collections. And this is a very concerning development according to the opposition. But I want to understand, how do you see this? Is it fair that 3% of the country pays more taxes than the corporate sector?
No, I think you are missing the point. That's why I made the tweet. Please understand the corporate sector profitability and income is only 38 lakh crores. Okay, around 38 lakh crores. They pay some 7 lakh crores of taxes, which is nearly 20%. And the individual sector, where people earn money from salaries, people earn money from interest, from capital gain, house property, and other sources, are something like 65 lakh crores or 65 lakh crores. And they pay about 7 lakhs, some slightly higher than corporate tax. And we must understand that a corporate sector or a company is only a shell. A company is a shell, an entity where thousands of investors, tens of investors put money. It does business, it earns money, and the profits belong to the investors. It's a legal entity and a artificial person for legal purpose. All right. If you overtax the corporate sector, you cannot invest more and you cannot create more jobs. The corporate sector should be a pass-through where the benefits go to all the owners, benefits go to all the employees and everybody else, and which pulls in capital to make sure that, that there is growth and development and investment. And in advanced country like the United States, the United States, I think, has about $450 billion of corporate taxes, nearly $3 trillion of individual taxes. It's not that individuals are paying more. Individuals have more income. The income ultimately belongs to individuals because companies are just a platform or an entity where capital is pooled. I think people in this country should understand the difference and not make such statements and try to say that, oh, you're taxing corporates less. That's not correct.
No, I'm not bashing corporates. I don't think bashing corporates is the focus of this debate, Mr. Pai. And you're obviously a champion of the corporate sector and industry leader in your own right. The fact that what this report, these figures are trying to point out is that only a very small percentage of the population of India, of the salaried population of India, actually only pays most of India's income tax.
Look, again, you're going down the wrong path. There are 50 crore people below the age of 20. They're not earning. 50 crore below the age of 20. You can't include the numbers, right?
Yes.
Because they're all in, every year
we have calculated that. That's why I've reached that figure of
20
3%.
years. Till 24, if you're in college, you don't earn much money. So we got to take what is called the addressable market. That is the group of people who earn money above the tax limit to pay taxes. And I think in that group of people, 95% are paying taxes. The question is, are all paying taxes the entire income that they earn? That is the question. Now, one is agricultural income, but a small number of people are well-to-do in agriculture. And the second could be any income evading taxes. Are people evading taxes? Could be possible, because in business and other areas, easier to evade tax. Could be possible. But the numbers are not very large, because today we have something called Form 26A. That means all sources of income are captured electronically and put into your PAN, so you get a stream of all the revenues from various sources, which you may not even want to disclose. And you're forced to disclose because the information is available using AI. And that is why individual tax collection last year and this year are going up in excess of 15-20%, with all the income is being captured.
Well, there is a line of defense also, Mohandas Pai, that attributes a rise in income tax collections to two factors. Number one, the number of people who are paying tax has increased because of better tax compliance, because of all the security features that have been brought in by the Modi government. And number two, that's also because the people who are paying tax are also paying a bit more tax, because they're gradually shifting into the upper tax brackets. They're rising up on the socio-economic scale. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I agree. But people going up the ladder must follow a number, but incomes are going up. That's true. The data proves that. And tax and compliance has gone up because of technology. All the information is captured. You can't escape much of it. It's captured in the system. Because without the system, interest income, house property, other income would have escaped taxation. There's TDS on most streams of income, and they're all captured electronically. So I think we have better compliance. I don't know if the compliance is voluntary or otherwise, but there is much better compliance.
Let's talk about the politics, Mohandas Pai. Mr. Rahul Gandhi termed this tax terrorism in his recent statement. Aam Aadmi Party's Raghav Chadha has stated that we pay more taxes than people in the UK do, but we receive benefits like we do in Somalia. Do you agree with the views of this opposition?
Raghav Chadha's statement that we pay taxes like the UK, we get treatment like Somalia is largely correct, because the top 10% pay taxes like the UK, 39% high marginal rate, average rate could be 30-32%. And what we get in the cities? Bad roads, high corruption, bad air, bad transportation, no public services, high corruption. It's not like Somalia, not better in Somalia, but we are right in the pits. Look at Delhi, how badly it's done with the AAP runs. It should be running it much better, right? They're cleaning up the street, they're not doing anything. Yes, for the taxes, the taxpayers pay, and high income people pay heavy taxes. We don't get the service, and we don't get our environment the way we should get. Our cities are not even clean. You go to Bombay, it's a vast slum. It's not clean. It's not even kept clean. Money is spent. In Bangalore, 600 crores is spent on collecting waste. But look at Bangalore, so dirty. Our roads are driven, potholed because there's so much of corruption. There's tremendous amount of corruption in all our cities. Money is siphoned away by all corrupt elements. The system is broken. So to that extent, he's partially right.
So, Mr. Pai, you do agree that the burden of personal income tax is disproportionately larger on the salaried middle to upper class in urban India?
Look, I won't make a statement, because if you have higher income, you got to pay tax. That's a rule in almost all countries. But what I would say is a disproportionate amount of the total tax collection is put on the bottom 50% of society. 8 lakh crore is the subsidy given by the union government and state governments to people below the so-called poverty line and agriculture. Nearly 4 lakh crores by the center and 4 lakh crores by the state. My state of Karnataka, 1 lakh crore is given as subsidies and all guarantees. In Tamil Nadu, I think is around 1,40,000 crores. All states are giving freebies. 8 lakh crores. 8 lakh crores, a lot of money. All that money is going to the bottom 50%. There's not enough spending on cities and urban areas, which are the major tax producing areas. So those people who stay in cities and who pay high taxes are not seeing the full benefits of their tax collection, but that is more a local issue because our cities are badly governed. Bombay, for instance, has got 65,000 crores, I'm told, in bank deposits, but the roads are very bad. The transportation system sucks. There's not been investment. We need more allocation for urban areas, which are higher tax paying, where the majority of the high tax payers reside. So they see an improvement in quality of life, and we see better governance in the urban areas. And both these are a failure. And that is the big challenge we see, that for taxes you pay, you do not see the benefits in the places where you live, like the cities and towns all over India.
All right. Thank you so much, Mohandas Pai, for joining me. Of course, champion of the industry of India Inc., a corporate leader who understands his point of view, as we heard at this, ladies and gentlemen, is that corporate tax cannot be blamed for being less than income tax because there are factors behind that also. But this is perhaps the reason why we have seen so many crorepathi's increase. Let's just look at these figures on your screens. In the last 3 years, we've had a 51% increase in crorepathi's, or by crorepathi's, I mean people who pay more than 1 crore, earn more than 1 crore, and therefore they pay tax on that. And that is one of the reasons why the quantity of people who pay taxes increased in the last years, and the quantum of taxes they pay, because they've risen above in the tax bracket, they pay more taxes. That is also the reason why they have paid the total corpus of revenue gotten from personal income tax has spiked and ballooned to such figures. Let me go across to Abhishek Sudhir, also political analyst, who's joining me at this point. Abhishek Sudhir, the criticism coming in from the graph which went viral a few days ago, which has resulted in reactions coming in from Rahul Gandhi and from Raghav Chadha as well. The fact still remains that whether, even if one does not blame the corporate sector, and we are not interested in doing so, the fact still remains that there seems to be an unhealthy amount of burden or stress put on the middle to upper middle or the higher tax paying, especially the urban Indian taxpayer, given the fact that we have not increased, we have not revised the tax brackets at the higher end of the spectrum, and have barely made any concessions in that spectrum when it comes to tax relief. And as a result, are we looking at the urban Indian taxpayer as a cash cow?
Look, I think this is excellent news. This is news that should be celebrated. When personal income tax exceeds corporate income tax, it means you're on the road to prosperity. There's a recent IMF report which highlights that all industrialized and developed nations of the world collect 4 times as much as personal income tax as they do from corporate income tax. This is how Viksit Bharat will be achieved. Look, there's the politics and there's the economics. Let me first come to the economics of it, right? Whether corporate tax rates should be increased or decreased is one policy discussion. If you increase corporate tax rates, you have to look at the spiraling effect that it can have. If you're going to increase corporate tax rates, and clearly Rahul Gandhi and the Congress manifesto has indicated that they would, I think that is what they mean by redistribution of wealth, which is tax the rich, tax the rich, and be Robin Hood and give to the poor. But if you keep increasing the corporate tax rate, right, are you giving any benefit to the middle class taxpayers? Now, we have to be very clear that the reason the personal income tax collection has surpassed corporate income tax is because of the widening of the personal income tax base, right? To anyone in the finance ministry, they'll tell you this is exactly the road to Viksit Bharat. When more people are paying tax, it means you're a prosperous country. Does Rahul Gandhi want us to become Pakistan, where not even a single 1% of the population?
But by more people, we still reach 3%. Abhishek, right, the more people, we still reach 3%. We've done those calculations. It's 3% of India's eligible population. I'm not even looking at total population.
Look, at the end of the day, direct tax collection has surpassed indirect tax collection. But yes, in the big part of that direct tax has been corporate income tax. If you want to give the middle class relief, it is not by increasing the corporate tax rate. Now, if you increase the corporate tax rate, you're going to harm growth. You're going to harm the creation of jobs. Adanis and Ambanis, whether you like them or not, are job creators. Let me give you an example of the recent wedding in the Ambani family. The wedding took place in Jamnagar, then there were festivals in Mumbai. These are job creators. You had artisans who were employed, karigars who were employed. You had wedding designers, fashion designers, right? You had GST collections from that wedding. You had service tax collections, right, from people who provided their services. You had income tax collection from that wedding, right? If you keep increasing the corporate tax rate, it will lead to more tax avoidance and lesser job growth. The reason personal income tax is surpassing corporate income tax is because we have more people employed, gainfully employed. The more and more people pay tax, more and more are entering the formal economy. That's good news. You want to give relief to the middle class? Maybe we can talk about cutting GST rates. Will Rahul Gandhi do that? No, because Rahul Gandhi's average voter does not understand that when he buys a bar of soap, he's paying GST. When he buys oil, he's paying GST. When he buys dal, chawal, he pays GST. Right? LIC, GST, right? GST is actually what will give us relief. If you increase corporate tax rates, it will lead to fewer jobs, lesser employment opportunities. Great, you'll have higher corporate income tax, but you'll have no taxpayers left. At the end of the day, this is excellent news. All industrial nations collect more personal income tax than they do from corporate income tax.
Okay. I hear you, Abhishek Sudhi. Just as an aside, the example you pointed of the corporate house and the wedding, I don't know whether that's right timing or not, because the corporate house later on recently has announced an 11% reduction in his workforce with 42,000 contract employees laid off.
Exactly,
but,
and if you
right after the event you mentioned, but
if you increase the corporate tax rate, people
okay,
will suffer.
no, that's a fair enough point. That's a fair enough point. That's a fair enough point. That if you want to bring down personal tax, you should not ensure that corporate tax is higher than that. If I can sum up the gist of your argument. Sanjay Jha, thank you for joining us on the debate.
One point politically, this
on
is
eve of this,
Rahul Gandhi's
Abhishek Sudhiji, we don't have that time. I've heard your point, and I'm sure you've made your point also. Let me go across to Mr. Sanjay Jha. On the eve of the union budget presentation, you had written an open letter to the finance ministry asking us about where are the jobs and asking whether the logic behind the corporate tax breaks that was given 5 years ago on the onset of the pandemic have really worked. Today, when you see this graph here, it's the point where income tax has risen more than corporate tax. What do you attribute to? Do you feel that that's because of income taxes being disproportionately higher or corporate tax being disproportionately lower?
I will tell you, I agree with you completely. This government, we call it out clearly without being politically correct, is an anti-common man government. This is a government against the middle class. This is a government against the farmers. We have seen how they've handled the protests. This is a government that basically does not even believe that India has inequality. I remember the Prime Minister Narendra Modi in an interview saying, what should I do? I should make the rich people poor. Well, Narendra Modi, as the Prime Minister of this country, does not even understand what inequality is. Then we're in serious trouble. Let me tell you, I heard a gentleman earlier rave and rant about why it's a good thing. Is it a good thing? I mean, today, this is a government that celebrated high GST collections. GST is a regressive tax, where the same amount of tax is paid on a particular good or service by Mr. Adani or Mr. Ambani as is paid by the somebody who is the poorest person in the country. How is that fair? And I remember the finance minister gloating on the GST. An efficient economy has higher direct tax rates. And I'll tell you why this government does not have the courage of its own conviction to charge the corporates, especially those who are, I think, beneficiaries of obscene, government charity, what should be a higher rate of tax.
No.
Progressive taxation is one of the most recommended methods.
No, I don't. No, Mr. Jha, I want to keep it simple at this point. I don't think, personally speaking, it should come down to corporate bashing. The simple logic is you pointed about being an anti-middle class. The problem is perhaps the government sees the middle class still as someone who earns on the middle end of the tax bracket, and it sees someone who earns more than 15 lakhs an annum as upper class. But 15 lakhs an annum means a salary of 1.5 lakhs in an urban city metro. That's almost nothing when you count into EMIs, cost of living, rent, etc. Should that be the priority?
Well, let me tell you straight away. Tell me government gave a corporate tax subsidy in 2019, which by now has foregone 10 lakh crores. Couldn't that have been given as a sop to the personal income taxpayer of this country? Widen the tax base, but you can lower the tax rates. Today, personal income tax is contributing higher than corporate income tax. I mean, how can this government be so shameless and brazen in actually tom-tomming about this, saying this is a sign of efficiency, when the truth is that the tax GDP ratio needs to be higher? This government needs to tax people, especially those who are super affluent in the country. A surcharge is not enough. But, obviously the government needs to pander to the super affluent community of this country. And many people, let me tell you one thing. Look at the irony of India. Wall Street and the Main Street are two different things. India's stock exchange is over 80,000, and you have 50% of people in this country who can't even afford 3 meals a day. And Mr. Modi's government doesn't care a damn.
Okay, let me get the last word then. Let me get the last word from S. Ravi, founder Ravi Rajan and Co. and former chairman of the BSc.
Just 20 seconds.
The point is that we've got our definitions wrong on what is the middle class today, what is the upper middle class, and what is the super affluent today, which is why we end up taxing the middle class, believing that it's actually the upper affluent class.
So, first of all, thank you for calling me. I would like to split this whole conversation into two parts. First is the personal taxation aspect and the corporate tax. Overall, it is a good idea to bring down the taxation for either of them also, because it's important to bring down the taxes. And as far as personal tax is concerned, you are seeing a tax widening of a tax of approximately 9% from the previous year. You are seeing the demat accounts that are opened is it at present is 162 crores, which is a very big amount of demat accounts. And you saw in June 42 lakhs of demat accounts being opened. So what has happened is, and even if you look at the corpus of the PF, which is being managed, is more than 20 lakh thousand crores, which is very big amount. So what has happened is the so-called people who have come from a informal or a organized sector have come into the organized sector. Second, people have gone to stock market and trading. People have opened demat accounts and are showing income. The fourth thing that has happened is widening of tax rates. All this has led to actually incremental increase of tax. And also what has happened is, if you look at the tax collection and also look at the taxation on ESOP, look at even the corporate salary structure and see the increments that have happened in the corporate structure itself. You'll see that salaries have jumped up. So all these multiplicity of factors have brought this whole thing together. It requires a deep bit of analysis, honestly, and it requires, of course, tax for the middle class has to come down gradually. It has to come down. And also the corporate tax, it's not a either or situation where you can tax the corporate and also tax the middle class or the individuals. I think overall the tax rate has to come.
The entire conception, I reiterate. Yes, the widening of tax is happening and people are paying more tax and people are paying the taxes on time. That is a very move, but there also has to be a recalibration of the ground realities. A simple example as I part at this point, when we have HRA exemption in metros, we still count metros as Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, Chennai and Kolkata. We don't count Hyderabad, we don't count Bengaluru, where most of urban India lives and works today. Abhishek, Sudhir, Sanjay Jha, S. Thank you so much for joining us on this very short and insightful debate. We are heading into a short break. On the other side, my colleague Shreya joins you with the top stories tonight. Stay tuned.